Welcome to our next deep dive webinar series, volume 2. Today, I really want to focus as much as possible on lead management automation. So one of the great things, if you had a chance to go through the Lunch and Learn series of our webinar YouTube playlist, if you haven't had a chance to that, I highly recommend you jump in and check that out, is you've had a great opportunity to jump in and start to manage some of your core processes in Jobman. You will have set up some workflows, started to run through your lead management, perhaps even connected up to your accounting software, got all your contacts in, and really starting to get a good feel for the software. Now, I want to take it to that next step and show a bit more of the advanced stuff you can do to start, I guess, replicating or automating processes that happen in your flow on a day-to-day basis. So really free up some time for you and the team. That's what it's all about. And Jobman is very good at that, as well as providing reporting and information. So the whole team is on board and know what's going on all the time involved in that lead management, which follows then into the job management part of the software. So we'll be looking at combining lead management workflows, especially the ability to use things like lead types to narrow and expand your flows. Triggers, such a fantastic part of the software, which are leading to notifications and emails. And really, I want to focus today on how we can use some of these aspects to automate all that automation. I use that word a lot because that's what we're really after. We want to take away those processes, free up that time, and give the team the best foot forward to win you more leads, which obviously means more work, which means more money. So it's a pretty foundational part of the software. So the big thing is, have you ever sat there and thought to yourself, wouldn't it be fantastic if less things were missed in our flow pattern? On a day-to-day basis, there's so much going on. You know, manufacturing is such a hectic industry. There's a lot of flexibility, a lot of changes, a lot of people coming to you all the time, whether they be referred clients, new clients, existing clients, account clients. A lot of stuff happening all the time. And one of the big things that I know a lot of people are looking for is a way to manage that in a better way with, greater transparency for the team, more information, a digital platform, and even the ability to send out automations for marketing. Big part of that for Jobman is the lead workflow. So the lead workflows are designed to improve your workflow management, give you more accountability and transparency for the team. And they utilize things such as statuses so that you have a really good understanding of where all your leads are up to at any given point. At a glance, you can dive in and see, how many leads have we got in the pre-sale phase, where we're just talking to clients and sort of getting understanding for what they're looking for. They haven't even really moved into a proper opportunity yet. How many leads are in the quoting phase, where we're up to estimating, which means it looks like they're going to move forward. So this is a fantastic opportunity to present a pricing structure and a value offer. And then how many of our leads are beyond that point? How many have been, estimated or quoted, and are sitting in like a follow-up status where that's all that business that could be being generated, but is just sitting there waiting to happen. And honestly, one of the hardest parts about lead management is, finding your way from the trees through the woods. There's so many leads that come in all the time. And if you don't have a good CRM like Jobman to be able to manage that, how do you know you're spending the most amount of time or the best amount of time really on focusing on the most leads that are going to win you the most amount of work or the most profitable work, depending on how your business works? There might be some areas of your manufacturing where from experience that they might come from an area which we call tire kickers. You know what I mean? They're just sounding you out, seeing what's going on. So if you had a way in which you could automate those flows, and most importantly, use things like lead types and lead details to narrow down that information, then when your sales team is looking on who to spend their time, where can we get the best bang for our buck, so to speak, that information should all be in one place and easy to manage, and Jobman certainly helps with that. And a big part of that is utilizing lead types. So types sort of have two benefits to the platform. One is that they will expand and detract a workflow. So that's very useful. And one of the things I'm going to show today is the ability to detract that workflow based on some parameters, which means everything becomes really easy. Client comes in, you can choose those types or type, and that will then dictate the workflow. So without you having to spend hours of your life building lots of workflows and really complicated management tools inside the software, you can build one nice almost generic workflow, and then use types to narrow that down, depending on the type of client. There are going to be processes which are not relevant to everyone. For example, a commercial or account client is someone you probably do a lot of business with. You have agreements with them where you don't have to send a deposit invoice to kick off the job. You have, arrangements, you've done a lot of business with them. So we don't necessarily want the operational step, send deposit, before we can kick off the job for that type of client. So by being able to attach that particular operation to a lead type, such as residential or private, where they are, that walk-through client or that day-to-day client, and they are somebody where you do need to pick up the deposit, being able to walk forward, really gives you the opportunity to utilize Jobman's workflow management and maximize your impact without having to have too many clicks. Part of that is triggers. Now, triggers are a phenomenal part of our software. One half of trigger management is making sure that key tasks, there are reminders set up for your staff via notifications or emails, depending on how you want to set them up, which means really important steps don't get missed. Using our example of the deposit invoice, for example, you might have done all the hard work. The estimating team has gone in, the sales team has won the sale, the estimating team has presented a phenomenal quote, the follow-up has been on point, the client's ready to go, and all we're waiting for is that process to make sure we get the deposit payment out to them and get it paid. That in itself is a follow-up process that has a bit of unknown around it. So by being able to keep on top of that, we can start to win more of our lead management, simply because we're on top of our clients more. They're coming back to us faster. We're not losing opportunities simply because someone forgot to give someone a call, and just follow up where that payment was at so that we can move forward. And especially when there are critical dates, like people generally have an idea when they want jobs manufactured by or installed by. So being able to keep on top of that in an automated sense is absolutely fantastic. Now, Jobman, if you go back to our previous deep dive volume 1, helps you dramatically in that area straight away with agenda screens. That's the big benefit of agenda screens, keeping all the tasks in an area on a dashboard or on the kiosk dashboard, where your staff can keep in touch with all those operations in the order they're meant to be done in, and most importantly, keep everyone on track and make sure nothing gets missed. But there are still times when there are going to be key operations that you just absolutely need to make sure they're done either on time, or if they are overdue, let someone know so that we can keep on top of the system. So notifications there and triggers are a phenomenal part of that. The other one, though, and something I really want to deep dive and explore a little bit more today, is the use of automation in the software for marketing. That's a big part of why a lot of people go looking for, an end-to-end package or an ERP such as Jobman, where you have both the CRM and job management process all under one house or on one platform, so that you can actually start to take advantage of some automation so that you're not doing things over and over. And that comes in two parts. We've got the automation of triggers that can set off emails to our clients. And that's something I'm going to show today. And setting those up means the process now becomes replicable. You build it once, and then every time someone goes in and ticks that operation, or if that operation is due or set to be due, there's a couple of events there, that marketing will go directly out to your clients, which is awesome. That just takes care of one whole process. You don't even need to think about it anymore. And you can even build in a flow whereby when certain operations aren't complete, we can send out things like reminders and follow-ups, again, without your team having to spend their time going in and managing this all the time. We're going to let the software really help us get on top of that. And I think this is a really good use of this webinar space, is to start bringing all these features together for you so you can really get the best out of your software. The last part to that, of course, is item specifications. And this is one of those areas which is either I've seen highly underutilized or overutilized in our platform, depending on the client. So I definitely wanted to cover a little bit of the use case around specifications today, because they are phenomenal. One of the most difficult parts around digital transformation in a company is the change of process. And it's not just the implementation of software. That's its own ride. You've got to go through that and set it up, make sure it follows your processes for your companies. But a big part of that, and the reason why people bring platforms in, is obviously we want to improve process. We want to, create more automation and really save ourselves time, but also to get away from old habits that weren't benefiting your business. And one of those habits is, especially for a lot of teams, is when we speak to clients, or we're finding out what clients are looking for as part of our process, that information can be in 200 different places. You know what I mean? You've got it coming into emails from reps. You've got phone calls happening. You've got people sending contact forms via the website. You've got, random networking where you meet people and you're like, oh, absolutely, we can do that for you. And that information tends to get lost between emails, notepads, sticky notes, bits and pieces everywhere. So there's no accountability, and most importantly, there's no transparency. And that's problematic, especially if you're, partway through the process of negotiating a new contract or lead, which could turn into big dollars for your company, and all the information around that client and what they're looking for is lost in someone's email somewhere. And that person's not there for the day. You know what I mean? Or the next couple of days, they'll take a week off, and suddenly that information isn't readily available. And that's one of the first big problems that Jobman solves. Aside from the workflow management and automation and starting to really help keep the team on track and be accountable, one of the big things we can do for your company straight off the bat is start providing transparency by having everything in one place. And item specs are a big part of that. Item specifications are essentially digital forms with which you can fill out from a preconditioned set of questions what the client's looking for. The best part about that is that's now linked to a lead, which is linked to a contact. That lead is visible to anyone in your job management or project management staff, your lead management staff. So that information can be seen. It's also easily updatable. If someone rings and changes their mind, or something happens, we can go in and modify it. Now there's this one central source of truth. But more importantly, once that lead becomes a job, those item specifications follow through into that job. So now the important source of truth around what the client was looking for, and that could be very particular, depending on the type of manufacturing you do. For some companies, especially cabinetry, joinery, commercial fit outs, the exact specifications of what the client is looking for are very important. What color are the doors? What are the bench tops? Et cetera, et cetera. Hundreds of questions that are super important around what that customer is looking for. And if you don't have that information readily available and something changes, there is a whole world of opportunity for mistakes to be made. And mistakes, as we know in the manufacturing process, mean a loss of profit. And in turn, it can be potentially a loss of time and a lot of money. So that's one of the first things that Jobman can really help improve your business, by having these specifications, information's in one place, but it also follows the life cycle of the job. So right through the job management team, anyone in the production drafting or detailing, estimating, purchase ordering, right down to even the team on the floor via the kiosk mode, there's that one source of truth they can keep going back to and double check that information, which is fantastic. So let's dive in. I've got a couple of things I really want to show you today, and hopefully that gives you a good background on what we're looking at. But I think there's some great stuff that we can really follow on from the CRM process. And it's one of those things, once you've got the basics up and running with your workflow management, a lot of people really come to us and they say, what can I do next? Where can I get even more out of this platform? And you'd be amazed the amount of conversations I've had where people weren't even aware that the platform was able to do it, which in turn meant they could get away from siloed CRM programs they might have been using in the past and really step into a one solution fit to manage their business. So let's start, interestingly enough, in the target calendar. The reason I wanted to dive into the target calendar first is I want to show you a couple of the benefits of how we can manage our lead flow and some of the things that can be used utilizing lead types to really improve this process for you. So you can see I'm a little bit fastidious about my coloring. I've set my lead flow management up in such a way that I can see the three most important critical phases of my leads. And this can be done under the settings, under leads, under operations. You can choose colors, you can choose similar colors, or you could have all these be different colors, completely up to you. But this is just a good, fast visual tool so that when I filter and manage based on my leads, I can get an overview of the month, see where the team is up to, see what's happening. And most importantly, yellow here, all the operations around yellow are what I call actionables. So they're the ability to see and know what things need to be done in order to move our lead processes forward. I've utilized green as a good color to showcase where we're up to key operations that could move this lead into a job. So for example, create job, quote accepted, and deposit payment received are the three critical areas where once those things are ticked off, I know that we're basically going to be moving forward with this job. So this, even at a flash, can give a lot of insight into how many leads we're looking at and what our potential turnover. Without having to run a single report or go filtering through information, I can bring up one screen and get a really good idea of what we're looking at this month. And this can be filtered even further if you have a lot of processes going on. But one thing you will notice is that I have what's called a red process in here. And that red process is when we lose clients. And I think that's a very important part of lead management, is not just the wins. You also want to be able to report on the losses. Find out how many people are coming to you and how many leads you're getting in a month. And then of those leads, how many are making it to the quoting phase? And then those that are being quoted and moving forward, how many turn into jobs? And how many then turn around and say, it's not for us? And what are the reasons why? Was it too expensive? Did someone not follow them up in time? Really, the more information you give the system, the better it is. From a lead management or a sales management point of view, though, I have little to no interest in these at an operational level. I don't need to see these because they have not yet been operations that have had or come about. I'm still in the phase of where I'm pretty confident these people are going to move forward. So I don't really want my target calendar being clogged up with this information. So that leads us into one of the first primary benefits of lead types. So underneath your settings, inside leads, we can go into an area called types. And generally speaking, the software will start with some types for you, just to give you a little bit of breakdown of information. These are, of course, fully updatable, and you can modify and change these and even change the name. So you might not call it commercial, it might be account client, for example. You might not deal with flat packs, it might be not installed. You can change these names to be whatever you like. I've added one called lead refused. And the reason why I've added this type is because lead types, just like job types, are updatable in a live lead. So what that means is when I start the lead, I don't want to bring in those operations. I don't want my target calendar being cluttered with information around why the lead might not happen. I'm a positive believer they're all going to happen. So I don't need that information being presented to me. However, if there reaches the point where it looks like the lead will, or the opportunity will not move forward, I want to be able to bring those operations in. So that is the first advantage of lead types. And utilizing them is very easy. So once I've built a couple of really relevant lead types, I can come into my workflows and I can look at my standard lead workflow. And you can see that this workflow that has been previously built or seeded in your software, if you're just starting up new with us, there'll be some examples in your software. So that's a great thing about Jobman. You don't need to build from scratch. There's a lot of information there for you. You'll notice that in my flow, this follows all those operations you just saw on that target calendar. And then at the end here, I've got a job refused status. Now, this is an important status because not every job is going to be awarded. So I do need an area where I can have my leads go, that are essentially closed with a reason, but they're not going to impact my lead screen. So my lead management team, or you, if you're the person in charge of sales for your business, is not being cluttered with information that's not relevant. I want those leads out the door. I want to focus on the active leads where we're winning more jobs. So what I can do is I can come into this quote too expensive and update it. And rather than utilize all lead types, I'm only going to allow this operation to come in when I select the lead type lead refused. So the benefit of that now means that when I start a lead and I create a new lead from a contact, and I don't choose the lead refused job lead type, this whole set of operations here is not going to come in. So I've applied it to all. So if the client changed mind, lead refused, client unhappy, refused. So when I see a new lead start, I'm going to see all the main operations, but those ones aren't going to appear in my target calendar, which is fantastic. That just cleans up my information, allows me to focus. Now, that's one primary use of lead types. It's a good way of cleaning down. The other way, as I said, is to utilize things that are not necessarily applicable to this type of lead. For example, like I said, if you've got a commercial client or a referred client or an account client, somebody you do business with all the time, you might not need to utilize the process for invoice for deposit payment. Therefore, this task, I don't want coming in every time I start a lead because it might not be relevant. It's relevant to my walking clients or my residential or private work, depending on what you call them, but not all. So being able to come in here and change to selected and say, well, look, absolutely, I want this task to come in when it's a builder, flat pack work, residential, or a revision, but it's not applicable to my commercial clients. I can turn that on. And now when I start a lead and I bring this information through, that particular task won't appear if I choose the type commercial, which is really good. So this is how you can use the lead flow management, aside from producing and building the automations around expectations for your team, making sure nothing gets missed, so that you don't have to build 5 or 6 different workflows. That's one of the great things about Jobman. Build one workflow, include the majority of tasks, and then come in and utilize the system using types to narrow down that workflow, depending on the information that you're being presented with. And the beautiful thing about this is, which is what I want to show you now, is this information is updatable. So if, for example, I started a lead last night for the Bayside Club, came in, grabbed the contact and created a new lead, you can see that currently the only type I've chosen is commercial. So that means it'll bring through my flow and it will have all the operations that are relevant to the commercial. And right now, none of my changes have been made because it's an existing lead. It's a very important thing to note when modifying workflow management in Jobman, is that any changes you make will only work going forward. So we don't want to corrupt and potentially disrupt historic data. You can imagine you go into a workflow and someone accidentally deletes an operation. If we automatically applied that to every lead in your system or every job in your system, it could have catastrophic effects. So we don't do that. For safety and for the best use of your software, we allow you to make changes. Absolutely, you can make changes on the fly even, and they won't affect your lead flow management processes, but we're not going to automatically update. However, the good news is updating this is extremely easy when you start to bring through and change your systems. So there's 2 areas we can update. The first we can update is we can update the type. So if, for example, like I said, this was set up correctly in such a way that my lead refused weren't coming through, and it turns out it looks like the client was going to be lead refused, I can come in here and I can update it and choose that lead type. And what it will do is it will bring those operations in. Now, I want to show that to you live because I think it's a really useful thing. And this is the same for job management, but we'll cover that in a future date. So if I come into the standard lead and I'm going to change the workflow, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change it back to the same workflow. And Jobman goes, oh, okay, no problems. That's cool. Obviously, you've made changes to your workflow and you want to bring them into this live lead. So either that you can test them and make sure they're working, or simply because you've decided this is a really important process. So I changed the workflow. Jobman takes a moment, recalculates everything. And then what it will start to do is it will start to look for these operations and it will automatically NA them when they're not relevant to the workflow cycle. So if I went back in and I changed my commercial flow from a standard lead flow, let's say I update this and I say I'm going to change this from my commercial flow to my residential. Oh, excuse me. Flow, what it will do is it will now change the relevant tasks for this operation. And that's one of the beauties of filtering through your lead types, so that I can bring in and out the lead refused, and I can change those parts on the fly and even change workflows that you've managed and modified. So really important, really useful. Again, you don't need to build lots of workflows. Jobman can manage it with lead types for you. And that in turn will then have extra effects on reducing the amount of information coming into your target calendars and really help keep everything on point. Now, the second part to that is, of course, automations. So automations also lie under the workflow management section. And the workflow management section in our software has a new area called triggers. And like I said, these are a phenomenal use case for the software. There's a lot of benefit to them. Now, triggers come in 2 types, emails and notifications. As a general rule of thumb, anything you want to relay to the team, we recommend you use notifications because it keeps it in the software rather than junking up people's inboxes, etc. I'm sure you get plenty of emails on the fly. Having notification triggers come into the software so that people are on top of everything. You can see what's going on and it's live. And this can be set out to kiosk. They'll go out to office users and they'll pop up, and then you can usually, most of the triggers, in fact, are hyperlinked to the area you want to go directly to. So it becomes really easy. And there's a lot of triggers we have built into the system naturally. Things like quote accept, comment, and decline will send triggers to the person in charge of the quote or the lead management. So that's a big one. You've got a trigger, notify, yep, quote has been accepted. Click on the notification, takes you straight to that quote. The status is updated automatically. We can push forward. So some of those automations we've built for you, but there might be other more automations you want to build. So I've built a couple here just as some examples. These are very easy to put together. So don't worry, super easy. Settings, workflows, triggers. And the first part is we want to build the trigger. The second part is then we apply it to the relevant task. So I've built a common notification that that clients would be looking for, and that is around an important critical task. Yes, I know we have agenda screens and the visibility is there, and when all the tasks prior to this should rock up on the screen and things shouldn't be missed, but this is a super important one. Also, quite often, not necessarily every member of your what I call ecosystem of staff in your business will necessarily operate inside Jobman. For example, a lot of companies employ outside bookkeepers, and those bookkeepers don't work in the business, but they work for the business a set number of hours a week, and their job is to manage invoicing, and they manage your accounting software, but they don't necessarily need to be in Jobman. You're going to be building invoices in Jobman and submitting them up to your accounting anyway, but you do want them to be across the process. So one good thing to do there, obviously, is get them a kiosk license, so they have their own agenda screen. It's a nice, easy value for money license. Doesn't give them access to your software. You don't need to worry about them being inside everything else and being, seeing everything that's happening in your company. But it's a nice little login, 4-digit PIN. They can come in the morning, and a list of tasks of things coming through will appear. On top of that, though, they might not be looking at that all the time because they might manage several companies. So having this ability to create a trigger where we will send them a notification. So it pops up, there's a little bell, a little orange bell will come up with a number, and they know, hey, there's something I need to do. So putting this together, very easy. The first part is give it a name. The second part is choose the type, whether it's an email or notification, and then come in and you need to link notifications specifically to an area. So you can't use a job notification or email, for example, in a lead because there are different variables attached. That's the only reason. You can duplicate them though, so you can make two that are almost identical. And this is one of those ones where you probably would, where you've got deposit invoice in the lead and then follow-up progress payments in the job. So building two different triggers that are virtually the same absolutely makes sense. You can utilize template variables to give some smarts to these notifications. For example, you'll notice here, I've got smarts around the lead number and lead description, and that was easy. All I had to do was copy them from here and paste them into that line. So now when the notification comes through, it comes with the subject. Jobman will automatically generate the lead number and the lead description, which is usually what most clients use to refer to the lead itself. So it's like the project name, if that makes sense. So this now becomes really easy in case people don't refer to lead numbers in your business. So I'll get a notification. It'll tell me who the lead is, the number, and what lead it's related to. And then, hi, staff name, again, automation. Hi, Cam, please send deposit invoice, ready for job creation. And it can be that easy or as complicated as you want to make this. You can go put as much information in here as you want. But for notifications, keep in mind, it's just coming into a box area, so you probably don't want a massive, something like an email. If you do require more information, maybe create an email, but it's designed to be quick, easy information. Ding, lead number, lead description, go send them the invoice. Bang, click on the button, go straight to that lead, send the invoice out. Off we go. Absolutely fantastic. The only other part to this that is very important then is what we call the event. What is the thing that's going to trigger this trigger to happen? I don't think that was very good English. But basically, it's the ability to say, do we want this to happen when a particular task is completed? So for example, in this instance, the task I'm going to be assigning this to is the task before. So when the quote is accepted and the invoice has been created, do we then go in and we want the next thing to be the send deposit invoice? So I'm going to set this to task completed. So when that send deposit invoice is ticked off, the notification comes through, I can send out the invoice. And then when the payment is received, I tick off the payment received operation. We can move forward and nothing gets missed. Excuse me. But there are many other ways in which you can build notification events. For example, common ones are task due date and overdue date. So sometimes if you're pretty comfortable with the use case of Jobman, it starts to really get through the entirety of your business. The agenda screens will solve this problem 99% of the time. However, as a fallback, you sort of want a notification to come through and say, hey, you've actually missed doing this operation. Now, it could simply be I wasn't there on the day and I come in the next day and I'm playing catch up. That's fine. But for whatever reason, this is a very critical operation. Sending out that deposit invoice is the thing we need to get out so we get paid so we can move the job forward. All the previous work to it was irrelevant until we got to this point. So having either the target date or the start date being overdue, and you can choose the number of days by which it's overdue. It could be 1 day. As soon as it's 1 day overdue, send me something. Then that will send a notification trigger to say this operation needs to be done. And this is the same for jobs and leads. We're just focusing on the lead automation today. You can also have it when a lead is started. An operation is started. So quite often you'll have operations that are quite lengthy, and you might want to link up some notifications so that people are aware of what's happening. For example, quoting and estimating tends to be a fairly lengthy process. You may, as part of your sales management or project management team, want to know when the team are working on really big potential leads. So when that process is kicked off, we can choose task started. As soon as a staff member jumps in and starts that task, it'll notify someone that something's about to happen. And this can be used in a lot of use cases. But for this one, we're just going to stick with task completed. There's another layer in here as well. Again, we can use those types for so many things where we only want this trigger to happen for certain lead types. And this is where we can break this down and select and say, potentially it could be for this trigger is only relevant to our commercial leads, or our account leads, or our private leads, et cetera, et cetera. So again, those lead types, many, many, many use cases for them. The last part is, what do you want to do with that information? Who are we sending it to? So the most common one, of course, would be send to your staff members, and you can select staff member or staff members. So you can have this go out to me or multiple people. That's fine. And then just make sure it's enabled. The reason we have this down here is simply so if you find there's a trigger you've got and it's no longer relevant, or you no longer want to use it, rather than have to go through your workflows and find that trigger and make sure it's been removed from them all, you can simply quickly come in and disable it so you know it won't go forward. And we recommend, when first starting with triggers, rather than build email triggers, do build notification triggers, because they're internal. So if you build something and it's not quite right, you can sort of have a play with it. People will give you feedback and you go, hang on, that's not what I quite wanted to happen. No harm, no foul. No information's gone out. Once you build a couple of internal notifications, absolutely go in and start playing with the email and external, which is fantastic. So this one's now set up, ready to go. Attaching it to the workflow then becomes really easy. So I come into my lead workflow and I look at my standard lead flow, and I can come in here and you can see here now that I've attached this trigger, which is very easy. Going to quote accept, update, triggers, boom. Great thing about Jobman, you can have multiple triggers come off the same operation as well. So if this task being complete, which is the quote accept task, being done, needs a notification to go out to the accounts team to make sure that the invoice is sent. But you also might want to send an email trigger out to the client as like a thank you welcome pack, or another notification internally around, hey team, it looks like the sales is going to be moving forward. Be prepared. Make sure we've got capacity. This is the end dates. All these sorts of things can be built in, and I can attach multiple triggers to any operation. And you'll know that it's been attached because you'll see this beautiful little lightning bolt figure here. So nice and easy. Now, the great thing about triggers is that's it. That's all you need to do. What Jobman will do from there is it will constantly run a check in the background of your software every given period of time. And then when these events start happening, so when leads start having the quotes accepted, bang, that notification will come up. Now, this is a little bit different to the change of workflow management in that triggers are live, and because they're linked to operations, so long as those operations exist in your current workflows, these will automatically attach. So you don't need to go update all your workflows to reintroduce triggers back to them. Because these are linked to operations, we can do that for you. And this is less dangerous for us than automatically, changing existing workflows, because the assumption would be is all of your leads that are beyond this point are already complete. So they're already done. We don't need to worry about triggers firing because those processes would have already been done. Therefore, we're not looking for the event. The event won't go off. No trigger will be produced. So nice and safe, nice and easy. The second one is the more, not more exciting. It's a bad word. Notifications are a huge benefit to a lot of companies, but certainly from a marketing automation point of view. And that's what I sort of, the point to this webinar right at the beginning that I wanted to get across is there are so many facets to Jobman, but very easily and very quickly, you can start to get a lot of benefit out of the software simply by rolling a few things together. And this is one of my favorites. So the ability to create some marketing automation or some email automation, and really, get that information set up so that it's easy for everybody to see. And most importantly, you just don't have to manage it anymore. So inside the creation of a marketing email or a trigger email is the same concept as a trigger, but there's just a bit more optionality there. So first of all, we have a marketing email intro to company trigger. That's the name. Type again, link it to the lead, choose a template. The template should generally be lead email for lead email triggers, or job email for job email triggers. And again, we can start to utilize our template variables to autofill some information. But something that's worth keeping in mind is if this is an external trigger, so if this is something that's going out to a client, we sort of want to be in a position where we want to be mindful of the information we're presenting to them. So for example, if you use the lead number here as your subject line, it doesn't mean much to the client. They're not a Jobman user. They're just one of your clients. So they really aren't going to get much information out of that. But lead description does make sense to them, because you've probably called the lead description something that's relevant to them, whether it be the site address or a bit of information around that company. And then a little bit of small information there, just so they know who they're receiving it from. Hide default contact name. These are inbuilt template variables into the system we have set up so that the system is smart enough to pick up who you're sending it to specifically, and it will change with the email. Put some information in, and you can even put in things like images, hyperlinks, etc. So I might have an image here that I can set up, and it's easy. You can copy and paste these into your system. And that image could be something of our company, and I can put a link behind it, perhaps to a YouTube video, for example, which would be really cool. So just a bit of an introduction about your company, who you are, what you do, and some verbatim. And you can go absolutely hack with these. And I highly recommend it. This is one of the big benefits of the software, is really try as much as possible to improve your flow processes and buy that time back. And this is a big one, especially for any company that's used a CRM in the past. You'll understand the power of automation of workflows. Again, we've put some default templating down the bottom so that you don't have to worry about all that information. Staff name, title, organization name, email, all of this is linked to your staff details. So again, you don't have to worry about the fact that this is not just a generic email coming out of my software. This is a tailored email coming from me because I've gone in, I've started the lead, I've ticked off the process. The software knows it's me, it knows it's Cam. Awesome. So the client's going to get a really professional looking, fantastic templated email. And same concept again. We come in here and we choose when do we want this to fire. So in this example, I've chosen task complete again because I've linked it to the lead entered status, operation, so that when that lead is entered, it fires off and it automatically sends out some information to a company and says, "G'day, this is a little bit about us," and a video. So before I've even had to have a conversation with them, they already are pre-qualified to know what we're going to be talking about. Again, you can utilize this really intelligently throughout your flow to work in if you've ever used something like MailChimp or other software platforms like that, you'd understand the importance of what we call flow management into your lead touch points, being able to communicate with your clients automatically at certain points throughout the process just to keep them engaged. Now, for most companies, that's manual. You go in, lead comes in, you talk to them, and then it's on someone's plate to keep following up. With this now, we can take that stress away from your team, have this handled automatically. For example, when the next thing might be due, which is fill out item specs or book in conversation with client in showroom, or whatever your process is to win your leads, we can set this up so that when that is due, we'll just send another quick email to the client to say, "Hey, we'll be chatting to you tomorrow," so we can move forward and find out what you're after and hopefully present the best solution for you. Just little things like that keeps the client engaged. Your staff don't have to keep remembering to do it. It's going to keep happening automatically in the software, and it will, I promise you, win you more leads, which is just an excellent return on investment back into the software so quickly. There are a couple more extra benefits to emails over notifications. The first and primary one being that, of course, emails can be external as well. So you can send it directly to the contact. This is the easiest one. Just choose the contact and all the default information will fill out based on the contact you've entered in. So that will make life easy. You can also send it to members, which are your staff members. You can send it to specific members. So you can CC yourself in to make sure that the process is being followed up and the information is working as you would expect it, which is awesome. I do this naturally with most of my triggers just for the first couple of weeks while I'm getting used to them going out to clients, just to make sure the right information is going out and I'm happy with how everything looks. And of course, you can always choose not to send it to this person, send it to a specific staff member, run it, trial it, have it come through to you, make sure it's everything you wanted it to be before pushing it live again. So you've got a lot of benefits there. You can also utilize contact roles so that when you're, I think if we go back to the previous webinar when we were talking about contacts and contact types, contact roles basically, is within contacts you'll have contact persons who have different roles. So this particular email you want to send out might be specific to the architectural companies or architectural people who are involved in the process of what you're about to put together. You might then build another email trigger that goes out to the builder, and then another one that goes out to the client, and all can come off the same operation. And that is a lot of automation for a very easy, quick amount of work. I think this took me about 8 minutes to put together. So really good. You can hyperlink things in here so you can put in information. You've got some quite good templating around how you want to set this up. You can make these look really nice. So once that's live again and enabled, the last part is nice and easy. Go into the workflow. Make sure that it's linked and ready for the trigger. So mine, I've linked again to lead entered. So just again, nice and easy. Choose the operation, choose the trigger, hit save. That's it. It's ready to go. So now if we go back into our test lead for today, which was the Banner Rock Station, I believe, or Bayside Club, sorry, Bayside Club. And in we come, and that first task gets ticked off. What will happen automatically is I come in here, lead entered, due today, fantastic. I'm keeping on top of my work, complete. Don't show me that again. We just leave that there as a reminder. Once your staff see it the first time, they can get rid of it, just to improve that process. That operation is now complete. It's been ticked off. The next operation is ready to go, which is book the showroom consult. That could also have a trigger signed to it if you want to. And what will happen is, boom, there we go. That's my email. And if I ever want reference to come through, I can see in my sent folders that emails are coming out. Bang. There we go. And that's the beauty of this as well, is there's a historic information around each of these areas so that you can always come back in and see the photos and see what's linked, so you can make sure that everything's working fine and the information's being picked up. But there's always a historic reference in here as well. So all automated, all easy. I absolutely recommend you use these as much as humanly possible. The last part for today, which I want to cover, because I think that covers a lot of use cases around workflow management, how to improve your workflow management, use lead types and triggers and notifications. I know it's a big one, but there's a lot of information there, and I highly recommend you get a bit of a deep dive into those because you will enjoy them. Again, check the documentation. But the last part, as I said, is item specs. Why are these so important? Keeping that information in one place. Now, the best part to item specs is there's a fair bit of automation built around these. For example, when I start a lead, you'll notice that when I create lead from contact, one of the first things it asks me is, what areas or what items do you want to attach this lead? By choosing these different items, it will automatically put those forms in ready to go for me to fill. So that's the first part of the automation. The second part is when building these forms, all this information now that I'm bringing into the site is live. It's digital, can be filled out digitally. It can be done from the phone or tablet or PC. Anything you got set up in the showroom or however that information comes into your business, make this part of your process. Why? Because putting this information in here now, it's not going to get lost. It's all here. It's all ready to go. As I said, you can make these as complicated or as simple as you want them to be. You've got a lot of use case options here. You can build what we call note fields, so text boxes. So for a lot of companies, they don't want to go to the effort of creating a lot of different questions for their staff. They just want to make this as easy as possible. So you put in a notes field, they can just fill out a lot of notes about the given areas. You can link things directly to materials. So this is a fantastic use case if you're in a highly bespoke manufacturing sector, such as kitchen making or joinery, cabinetry, where the inclusions list is massive. People picking handles, they're picking tops, they're picking door colors, etc. Now we can put this information live, we can link it up, and most importantly, it's not going to get lost, but the whole team knows what's going on. And these are all hyperlinked. I can go directly to them in my catalog if I want to double check and change things. And even better yet, even though this is digital, this can be printed out to PDF so that they can either be emailed to the team, utilized and sent to the clients to double check. And again, being a template, a HTML template, if you want to improve the visibility on these, the look, include your logo, your organization, or any information you might want to present to your client, you can really utilize these in many ways. We've built a nice streamlined template so that it presents the best information in a nice padded way for your staff, and brings all these details through nice and easily. So it's clean, easy to read, you print it to PDF and send it off. And the best part is setting these up is extremely easy. It's a very similar process to building forms, if you've seen that particular webinar we've done. So you've got settings, items, specifications, and specifications themselves are broken into two areas: groups and questions. So really, it's just groups are a way in which we collate data in one area, so that you can sort of see blocks of questioning together to make it a little bit easier for your team to fill them out. And then questions themselves are just designed around what sort of things would you like them to fill out. Unless you make them required to be completed, the team can fill out as much or as little of the information as you need them to. And I definitely would recommend you don't go too hack on making sure everything is required to be completed, because sometimes that information might not be available at that point to the person taking the lead. You want to encourage the team to use this as much as possible. So leaving it sort of semi-open and making sure that, you know, quite a few of the details are put in, as much detail as we can put in is good, without constantly frustrating your staff because I can't save them because so many of the required fields are there and they can't do them. But if there are extremely important parts that you need to know from every client, absolutely make that question required to be completed. And then it's a very easy system. You give the question a name. There are a lot of different types or ways in which you can build the question. Like I said, you can keep everything very simple. Just make a text. So just quickly type the answers. Bang, 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 bang. Beautiful. Digital, easy, ready to go. Or pre-fill the information from contact forms or emails, however it's coming to you. Paragraph text just gives them more area. Email addresses, URLs, numbers, drop downs, checkboxes, and material. Now, drop downs, checkboxes, and materials are the three with the most smarts behind them. Materials, if I choose this question as a material, means basically when they go in and fill out this question, the browse material pop-up will appear. They can click on it, filter the information, and choose material specifically. This is a fantastic use case for a lot of companies. Have the lead team actually designate the materials specific to the information they know, so that things don't get lost down the track. And most importantly, that information can be double-checked. Checkboxes obviously allow them to tick things off, and drop downs give you the opportunity to put some questions and answers in a little bit further. So you could say yes, no, to be announced, for example. And really, it's that easy. Come in here, you can build each of these questions. You can move these around. You can delete areas. I can add new questions within the group, or I can come up here and add a new question and design the group. The last part to it is, again, types. We love types, but they're so good, so powerful for the software, is choosing what types that these questions will come into relevant to your item spec. So for example, you might have, I'm going to use the example presented here, which is kitchen manufacturing, but there's 100 use cases for this across every manufacturing sector. You might have questions that are relevant to bathroom fit outs that are not relevant to the kitchen. Same as the laundry, potential garages, offices. If you're involved in fencing or other types of manufacturing, there'll be questions that are relevant to a particular type of manufacturing you're about to do that are just not relevant to others. For doors, you know, there are questions that are relevant to the fascias or the molding or anything along those lines that is relevant to the material. So the client telling you the material first is the key question, and then that dictates the area for which we're going to use the item spec. So this is how I can have one beautiful big form ready to go, but then I can choose where and how each of the questions and groups are relevant to my different items, so that when I go back into that lead, you saw I had 3 different items there for kitchen, bathroom, and laundry. It will present different questions for me to fill out based on those areas. So really, really, really useful, really powerful. And the last part to that, of course, is how do you set up your types, settings, items, types. And again, it's just a list that can be filtered. Sorting this up and down just means the most common question groups you'll probably have for those areas, push to the top just so they're at the top of the list. But realistically, have as many types as you want, link to as many specifications as you want. And the more broad you make it, the more information you allow your team to give, the less mistakes are going to happen down the line, potentially saving your company hundreds of thousands of dollars.